Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a topic that's both incredibly universal and, well, deeply personal, navigating the world of pregnancy and babyhood.
Yeah.
If you're even thinking about starting a family, expecting, or maybe you're right in the thick of those early years, there's just it feels like a flood of information out there.
Absolutely. It can feel overwhelming, like you're almost drowning in articles, advice, maybe from family,
Right.
and just a constant stream of new products hitting the market. You'll go for one simple answer, and bam, you're down like 100 different rabbit holes.
That's exactly it, isn't it? And, well, that's kind of where the resource we looked at comes in. It's a really comprehensive online hub, covers the whole spectrum, from those very first thoughts about trying to conceive all the way through the toddler years, which are, fascinating, but also challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
It gets into everything, understanding fertility, figuring out pregnancy symptoms, even toddler sleep.
And what's interesting here, I think, is not just the sheer amount of information, but how it tries to sort of connect the dots. It's not just isolated facts like about morning sickness. It touches on related things too. Managing family finances with a new baby, how important choosing a name feels.
Yeah, that's huge.
Even navigating all the baby products out there. It's
Yeah.
trying to give you a more joined up picture of the whole experience.
So our mission today, for everyone listening, is really to cut through some of that noise. We want to give you a structured overview of this huge landscape of information.
Like a guided tour.
Exactly, a guided exploration. We won't get lost in every single detail, promise, but we want to highlight the key areas this resource covers, just so you get a sense of what's out there and can maybe pinpoint the areas that are most relevant for you right now.
Feels good?
Okay, let's unpack this, starting right at the beginning. Journey of, well, getting pregnant.
Okay. So this first section in the resource, it really focuses on the steps leading up to conception.
Right.
It covers the basics. Understanding your fertility cycle, figuring out when ovulation happens, making those early preparations for pregnancy, that whole preconception health piece. It's often about understanding your body's natural rhythms first.
And it seems pretty realistic, too, because it also talks about the challenges some people face. Like with infertility, it offers a starting point for understanding that side of things, potential paths forward.
Yeah, that's important.
And there's a section they call recommended reading. It tackles some really common early questions. Stuff like, what is implantation bleeding and when does it occur? Or ovulation symptoms, 10 signs of ovulation. I remember friends constantly looking for those exact things.
Oh, definitely. These articles really tap into that anticipation and sometimes the anxiety that comes with trying. Understanding those little potential signs like implantation bleeding that's, light spotting when the egg implants, or knowing the signs your body gives you around ovulation, that can feel really empowering. And that question about the faint line on a pregnancy test,
Right.
Such a common thing, so much hope and uncertainty wrapped up in that.
Absolutely. And it even touches on that age-old question, how to have a boy or a girl, which, regardless of the science behind the methods,
Yeah.
it definitely speaks to a very human curiosity, maybe even a desire for some control. But beyond just reading, this section also points out some really practical tools.
Yes, the ovulation calculator and the IVF due date calculator. They're great examples of how tech can help with family planning now.
How do those work exactly?
Well, the ovulation calculator helps you track your cycle, predict your fertile window. Super helpful if your cycles aren't perfectly regular.
Okay.
And the IVF due date calculator. Well, IVF is in vitro fertilization, where fertilization happens outside the body because the timing in IVF is so precise.
Right, it's different.
A special calculator is needed to estimate the due date accurately. These tools really show the move towards a more kind of informed, data-driven approach to trying to conceive.
Okay, so moving on to the next big chapter, pregnancy itself. This section really expands, as you'd expect, covers the whole 9-month experience.
Exactly. It's set up to follow the pregnancy journey, offering a week-by-week breakdown, what's happening with your body, how the baby's developing.
That week-by-week thing is so helpful.
It really is. And it tackles the huge range of pregnancy symptoms, from those very early signs to, everything that changes later on.
And it doesn't shy away from the main event, labor and delivery. Plus, lots of guidance on actually preparing for the baby's arrival, which is, well, it's a whole universe in itself, isn't it?
Totally.
We're talking fetal development, watching the baby grow, the different screenings and tests you might have. Even fun stuff like the baby's zodiac sign, planning baby showers.
And importantly, it also addresses potential pregnancy complications. which, nobody wants to dwell on that.
Yeah.
But having access to solid information about possibilities is crucial. For making informed choices, knowing when to call the doctor,
Yeah.
the recommended reading here hits on some very common worries and experiences during pregnancy.
Yeah, things like early signs of pregnancy, I bet that's searched constantly.
It has to be.
Or really practical advice like managing morning sickness and nausea, a really tough challenge for so many in those first months.
Oh, yeah.
And then as you get closer, understanding the signs of labor, telling the difference between Braxton Hicks contractions and false labor. Braxton Hicks being those practice ones, right?
Exactly. The dress rehearsal contractions. Very important distinction to make.
And that curiosity about signs you are having a boy or girl, that seems to pop up throughout pregnancy too.
It does. And what's interesting is how the resource blends the super practical, like recognizing labor stages, with the more personal, emotional side, coping with discomfort, feeling connected to the baby, wondering about the sex.
Yeah, it covers both.
And again, there's some really useful tools provided here.
Right. The pregnancy due date calculator, conception date calculator, fundamental for tracking things. The pregnancy weight gain calculator gives some guidance on what's generally considered healthy.
Yeah, ballpark figure.
And the Chinese gender predictor, bit of fun, maybe. Based more on folklore, I gather.
Pretty much, yeah. A bit of lighthearted speculation.
Okay, so after the 9 months of anticipation comes the first year with a newborn, often described as intense.
Intense adjustment and learning, definitely. This section tries to offer support and info for navigating those first whirlwind months.
It's organized month by month, which seems incredibly helpful for new parents trying to figure out what's normal for their baby's development.
It is, and it also covers postpartum recovery for the birthing parent, which is so vital and sometimes gets pushed aside.
Absolutely. Needs more focus.
And it really digs into the details of newborn care. Everything from feeding, breastfeeding, bottle feeding, all the considerations there, to eventually introducing solid foods. Tracking milestones, understanding baby sleep or lack thereof.
It's dealing with vaccines, trying to establish some kind of sleep and feeding schedules. It's a time when routine feels both essential and maybe impossible sometimes.
The recommended reading here really reflects the day-to-day stuff, the anxieties, questions like, when do baby growth spurts happen? That's so common when suddenly your baby is feeding constantly or sleeping differently.
Exactly. And every parent at some point wonders how to help a gassy baby or tries to solve the puzzle of 11 reasons your baby won't sleep, usually at 3 a.m.
Yes. Those late-night searches for things like gripe water for babies, that old remedy for colic or gas, or figuring out what is sleep regression. You know those times when sleep suddenly goes completely haywire again.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah, most new parents can relate. The sheer volume of new stuff, the challenges in that first year can feel staggering. And the tools reflect that practical need for tracking.
The baby tracker sounds brilliant for that.
Yeah.
Logging feeds, sleep, diapers, milestones. That must be so helpful for seeing patterns, especially when you're totally sleep deprived. Yeah, trying to make sense of it all.
Okay, so as the baby gets bigger, more mobile, you hit the toddler phase, which brings, let's say, its own unique set of joys and challenges.
That's a diplomatic way to put it, yes.
Yeah.
This section helps navigate that transition.
Right. It continues with a month-by-month look at toddler development, but also adds crucial topics like health and safety as they start exploring more.
Definitely.
Feeding toddlers can feel like a whole new battleground sometimes. Picky eating, food refusal.
The food battles.
And of course, toddler sleep issues and the whole adventure of potty training are covered pretty thoroughly.
And don't forget how important activities and play become for their development, plus the beginnings of early learning. The recommended reading here really zooms in on typical toddler behaviors and the questions parents have then.
We're talking classics like, why is your toddler waking up too early? Googled over that first coffee, I'm sure.
Guaranteed.
And the very direct how to potty train your toddler in 3 days speaks to that desire for a quick fix, even if reality is often messier.
Yeah, maybe adjust expectations on the 3 days.
Then you have things like understanding and handling toddler night terrors, the puzzle of why toddlers refuse to eat, and, this one.
Which one?
What to do if your toddler refuses to poop. That specific stress is real.
Oh, absolutely. These articles really hit those specific behavioral developmental points that define toddlerhood.
Shifting focus a bit wider now, beyond just the child, the resource also has a family section. Takes a broader view.
Yeah, this is where things like adoption come in, managing family finances with kids, a huge one, and the totally different experience of being second-time parents or third or fourth.
Right, it's not the same the second time around.
Not at all. It acknowledges that raising kids happens in a bigger family context with wider things to consider.
Practical advice, too, like child-proofing, kids' mental health, car safety, even logistics, like traveling with kids stuff goes way beyond the baby years. Plus, sections on family relationships, handling changes, and, surprisingly, recipes.
Yeah, a few recipes thrown in. The recommended reading here shows that wider scope. Questions like, what is the best age gap between kids?
The age gap debate.
Always. And fun ideas for second pregnancy announcements. Support for different families, too, like where to find financial help as a single mom, and practicalities like do babies need passports?
Yeah.
Even planning help, like when is the best time to have your baby shower?
Okay, now for a topic that involves a lot of excitement, maybe some debate. Baby names. Always popular.
Always. It's where people explore that huge world of names, often broken down helpfully by gender, popularity, even unique or uncommon options.
So you can find lists like top baby names for boys, top baby names for girls, but also best gender-neutral names.
Right, for more flexibility.
And for parents wanting something different, uncommon baby names, unique girl names, unique boy names. And the recommended reading lets you drill down even more.
Yeah, you can get really specific, like browsing top baby boy names that start with A or top baby girl names that start with J. It's just a great resource for that, fun but sometimes stressful name-choosing process, whether you have an idea or are just looking for inspiration.
Now, getting ready for a baby also means stuff. Lots of stuff.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the registry builder section.
Yeah, this is super practical, designed to help parents-to-be get organized, make sure they have the essentials.
How does it work?
It has features like a custom checklist you can tweak. You can manage multiple My Registries together. There's a take the quiz thing to maybe suggest items you hadn't thought of.
Oh, clever.
And General Registry 101 advice for newbies.
And speaking of all that baby stuff, there's a whole section on baby products, reviews, recommendations, the works.
Yes. From the big-ticket items like car seats and strollers down to everyday things like diapering supplies, nursing and feeding gear, it tries to help parents make informed choices in a really crowded market.
What else is in there?
Baby monitors for safety, different kinds of baby carriers, general baby care items, nursery furniture, developmental toys, and, yeah, those strollers for getting out.
The recommended reading here seems very consumer-focused, helping choose the best pregnancy pillows.
Comfort is key.
Best prenatal vitamins, finding free baby samples or best baby deals, even guidance on best breast pumps. And there are tools here, too.
Yes, those stage-specific checklists are great. First trimester must-haves, second trimester, third trimester. They break down what you might need when, which helps stop you feeling totally overwhelmed by everything you think you might need all at once.
That makes sense. Okay, finally, there's a community group section, really highlighting the value of connecting with other people going through it, too.
Exactly. These groups offer that vital peer support, a space to share experiences. People connect based on, say, their baby's birth month, where they live.
Location-based.
Yeah, or specific interests like actively getting pregnant, being in pregnancy, or navigating the first year. There are even groups for broader family topics or specific health concerns. It just underlines how powerful finding that community can be, knowing you're not alone.
Definitely. Now, just to give everyone a slightly closer look at how this all fits together, let's do a quick deep dive just into the pregnancy section itself.
Okay.
Right at the top, it greets you with a really warm message. Congratulations and welcome to your pregnancy. It's a nice supportive tone straight away.
Yeah, it does. And what's super user-friendly is the jump to your week of pregnancy feature.
Right.
Makes it so easy to find info relevant to exactly where you are. Insights into fetal development, advice tailored for that week, like a personalized guide that grows with you.
And they put the pregnancy tools and resources right up front, like calculate your due date and info on signs of labor, often the first things people look for.
The immediate practical stuff.
Yeah.
Then the whole section is broken down into logical pregnancy topics.
How?
Well, there's your baby, focusing on fetal development, twins, etc. Then your body symptoms, sleep, labor, delivery. Health and safety covers tests, weight gain, vaccines. Diet and fitness guides nutrition and exercise.
Okay.
Preparing for baby is all the planning names, registry, shower. Your life acknowledges the emotional work relationship shifts. And like we said, dedicated community groups for pregnant folks.
And to show it's current, they feature latest articles, news, and blogs.
Yeah, titles like How to Create a Birth Plan That Feels Empowering and Realistic, or practical guides like Having a C-section. Here's what you should know. Even answering common curiosities like, does the heartbeat gender prediction method work? Shows the range.
So, as you can definitely hear, this single online resource really does offer an incredibly broad, detailed look at the whole journey, from thinking about starting a family right through the toddler stage, just packed with information, advice, tools.
Yeah, it's a lot. The key takeaway, I think, for everyone listening is just to appreciate the sheer volume and variety of information that's available now when you're navigating pregnancy and early parenthood.
Right.
This deep dive has hopefully given you a kind of map, a structured starting point
Right.
to understand the main areas covered in this type of big resource so you know where to even begin looking.
We really encourage you to, revisit a resource like this based on where you are right now, what questions you have, whether it's early days wondering about ovulation, or you're dealing with morning sickness, or trying to understand toddler sleep. There's likely a ton of information and support there for you.
Which actually brings up a really interesting final thought, maybe something for you to chew on.
Okay.
With this unprecedented amount of information so readily available now, how do you think this level of detail actually shapes the personal experience of pregnancy and early parenthood today? Does it mostly lead to feeling more empowered, more prepared? Or does it sometimes contribute to feeling overwhelmed? Or maybe, probably, it's a complex mix of both. Definitely something to reflect on as you navigate your own path.